Hey folks, I've got another video for you. This one is going to hopefully fit in nicely with the two that I did earlier. The part two, or the two-part segment on intuition, and one I did earlier on context. Actually, this may also tie nicely into one I did many years ago, where I did a reading for Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. And I used the same three cards to look at it under three different situations. So the purpose of this really is to get the context thing working and to come up with a way to practice that. And someone commented on the context video that it was easier said than done, and I said that's absolutely right, and if I were thinking, I would have talked about that in the video. So I hope that this one actually gives you a method to use the idea of context, how the question changes the card meanings. And this is like a really simple game you could do wherever. And it's actually a nice way to play with a deck when you're not really working, or you don't have any readings, or you're just sort of sitting around and it's a rainy day like it is outside today. Like a rainy October Sunday. So I hope that this is helpful. It's a little bit of a game, and that makes me happy because I kind of like that tarot started out as a game. And is there more to say about that? I hope it's helpful. That's really my aim. I just want to be really helpful. I want to share with you things that have been interesting and that have worked for me, and I want you to really love working with the cards, and I want you to take a look at this technique and let me know if you like it and if you think it's useful, and I would love it if you'd have a great week too. So let's take a look. All right, here we go. This activity is a bit of a game, actually. What you're trying to do is you're trying to change a spread of cards' meanings based on context. So in an earlier pair of videos, I talked about intuition and I talked about how our brains recognize patterns. I talked a little bit about context in a couple other videos. And in fact, if you go back to my early videos, there's a reading that I did for Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird using the same set of cards under different circumstances. And this is kind of similar. But what, in essence, we're doing is we're going to pick three cards and we're going to play a game. So shuffle your deck. You could do multiple, you could use a couple decks for this, but you actually don't even really need to. One is plenty. You could start with one card if you want to. It depends on how you read. I like to use three cards at least in most cases, unless it's a really, really big spread. Just because what I'm trying to go after is creating a narrative. And in my favorite books video, I talked about one of my favorite techniques in Robert M. Place's tarot history, I can't remember the title now. I'll have to look. History, Divination, and The Sound of Music. I can't remember the name. It's an awesome book, though, but in it he talks about using three cards instead of one. And I have been doing that since I read the book. So really all you're going to do, and remember this isn't a real reading, is you're just going to pull three cards and you're going to let it bring a pattern to you. You're going to say, all right, what do I see? I see an organization that is incredibly good at directing its energy toward communication, towards excellent communication, right? Now, again, these aren't about creating beautiful readings. This isn't about creating the most poetic reading. It's not about creating the most accurate reading. All we're doing right now is looking at the cards and coming up with a pattern as fast as we can. An organization is really good at putting energies into creating excellent communication. And just to give you some insight into why I said that, the Hierophant traditionally represents institutions. The Magician represents a conduit of energy to me. And the King of Swords in the world of intellect often represents communication to me. I would say the King of Swords is an excellent communication expert, maybe a speechwriter, and again, really, really fast. It's not about creating beautiful readings here. It's about practicing the idea of patterns. and it's about allowing your intuition to speak to you and trying to get yourself out of the way. So as you go through this game, what you're going to do is not judge the readings that you're giving. You're going to not judge or you're going to try to not judge whether, quote, they're right. It's not about being right. It's about patterns and it's about context. So here's my reading about an organization that's really good at channeling its energy into great communication. Is that what I would say in a normal reading? Probably not. I would probably go deeper, especially because I've got two majors. It doesn't matter, though. All right. Now, if I'm answering a specific question, it's going to change the meanings to a certain degree. It may change the meaning of one, or it might change the meaning of all of them. And it doesn't matter whether it's one or maybe it'll stay exactly the same. But the point is that the meanings of the cards are going to change based on the question. And this is, I would say, a pretty positive spread in this case. If I get into the details of things, the Hierophant is a card many folks don't like, particularly in this deck, particularly who grew up in organized religion. Because what we also see here is supplication. What we also see here is being beholden to others, being beholden to a church, being beholden to a high priest. The King of Swords can sometimes be really guarded. The King of Swords can sometimes be cut off. He can be difficult to get to know. He can be very, very difficult to get close to. He can be smug. He can be so uber intellectual that you can't ever know where you really stand with him. The Magician to me is almost always positive. But even the Magician in a negative way to me can mean erratic energy. An inability to channel energy into a goal and letting it go everywhere. I talk about this a lot whenever the Magician comes up in a reading, but for me the Magician is the electrical transformer. It takes the raw power being piped through the lines outside our homes, which would burn our houses down, and the transformer accepts that energy, transforms it into something usable, and then it comes into our houses where it powers everything. So the opposite of that, or the shadow of that, however you want to think about it, the negative of that can be an inability to transform that energy, or completely, totally erratic. But again, it's not even about that. What it's about is the pattern. 1, 2, 3. 1 + 1 + 1. So an organization with great ability to channel its energy into excellent communication. That's what I'm going with on its really most basic level. Now, you're going to use the rest of the deck sort of like playing, I don't know, a card game, or like a word game, apples to apples, Cards Against Humanity. You're going to pick a card from the deck next, and that's not going to mean anything in terms of a reading right now. What it's going to be is a situation that you're reading about. So again, in a weird way, you are sort of practicing patterns here too, because you're going to take this, you're not going to read it like an answer or an interpretation, you're going to turn it into a situation. So a person feels really bound up in their thoughts, and they're coming to you and they want a reading to figure out what that's about. So now your job is to go to the 3 cards you already pulled and relate these 3 cards to this situation. Someone feels really bound up in their thoughts. So what they may want to do is search for a spiritual guide or leader who can help them channel their thoughts into a masterful use of their intellect. All right. Don't go further than that. Don't make it too dramatic. Don't overthink it. This is what I'm seeing. You're going to see different things. That's okay. Someone's feeling really, really joyful and thrilled, and they want to know if it's going to last. So is it going to last? There is going to be the influence of an organization who will show them how to master the tools in front of them. And if they can do that, they're going to elevate themselves to a intellectual master. So yes, it will last as long as they want that. Again, is that brilliant reading? No. Justice. All right, someone feels like a situation isn't fair and they want to know what to do about it. What they should do about it is root themselves in the history of the situation, work really hard with the tools they have to communicate their feelings as a grown-up. Someone feels like they're struggling with consumerism, right? They can't stop shopping. So what you want to do is look for someone who can show you how to discipline yourself, exercise that discipline so that you're able to channel your urge to shop into a more mature response. Someone's dealing with a lot of conflict in the home, then you may want to seek the advice of someone who has a lot of experience, who can show you the ways and the tools to communicate your feelings of and master the conflict elegantly, like a real leader would. Someone is feeling really airless and floating around too much. Look for a group or organization that will help them channel their energy into something more grounded, and the advice of someone who is someone they look up to, who's really smart, who's really thoughtful, who knows how to take the air energy and make it into something productive. I'm not going to do the whole deck. You get the point, though. The point is just to take the same 3 cards and read them in response to a series of different questions. And if I were you, I would go through the whole deck because I think that can be really effective. Then once you've done it, put the cards back in, take another 3, come up with your initial pattern. Someone young is looking for adventure. Along the way, they discover that the seeds that they planted long ago is actually yielding things they didn't expect. So then someone is wondering how to deal with this feeling of being bruised from previous relationships. Go in search of what you have laid in the groundwork in the past, and that can bring you fulfillment. Someone wants to know what to do with this great idea that they've had. Go in search of how you can plant the seeds and grow them and harvest them into a full culmination of the idea. So go in search of where you can plant your idea and watch it grow. You get the point, on and on and on. So that's a great way to practice really the essence of what reading is, to take cards, whatever cards are going to show up, and make them mean something in relationship to the question. So you've got a question, 3 cards show up, you stare at them blankly for a minute and say, what the hell do I do now? This is going to get you ready to do that. Do it over and over and over again. You're going to build that skill. The muscles are going to start working. It's like playing scales on the piano. It's like learning to type. It's like learning to do anything. The more you activate that skill, the more you exercise that muscle, the sharper it's going to be when you need it. I hope this helps. Let me know if it does. Let me know what thoughts you have, and I hope you have a great week.